Finding the resistance of a piece of material is fairly straightforward. We simply multiply its resistivity by its length and then divide the result by its cross-sectional area. But an interesting thing happens. When we shift from DC to AC, as we start to increase the AC frequency, the resistance actually starts to increase. What the heck is going on here? Well, there's something called skin effect. I'm Professor Fiore, and I'm going to explain it to you right now. Hello, folks. Now we're going to dive into skin effect and Litz wire. What the heck are we talking about? Well, let's explain what's going on with skin effect, right? When you look at DC current in a conductor, we imagine that current being equal across the face of that conductor. You know, if you imagine mentally cutting the conductor, right, up perpendicular to the flow of current, you have this surface area, and we imagine the current, the charge transfer being constant all the way across there. No matter where you would measure it, along that face, it would always be the same. True for DC, but not for AC. In AC, what ends up happening is the current tends to hug the outer surface. In other words, we have a higher current on the surface, and as we go towards the center, the current tends to decrease. Now, the higher the frequency is, the greater this effect will be. As a matter of fact, if we go high enough, there's virtually no current flowing in the center of this wire. As a matter of fact, functionally, there'd really be no difference between that particular kind of wire and using a tube, right? I mean, the center isn't really conducting any current, an appreciable amount of current. The tube would actually be more efficient because you'd use less copper, right, to get the same length of conductor. The way of thinking about this is to think in terms of that equation, right, that I brought up, the rho L over A. As the frequency goes up, the current tends to sort of go out toward the surface, hollowing out the center. And what you're really saying is the effective cross-sectional area is decreasing as that happens. So if your area is getting smaller, that means the resistance has to go up, right? So we see these things going in tangent. In other words, we see the frequency going up, at the same time we see the resistance going up. And this can have a major impact in certain areas. For example, with an inductor, without skin effect, you would expect the Q of an inductor, which is X sub L over our coil, to just increase with frequency. That does not happen though, because what ends up happening in reality is that as frequency increases, yes, X sub L does go up, but our coil also increases because of skin effect. So we don't see the Q just sort of taking off and, you know, going stratospheric. Eventually, because of skin effect and also because of other things like parasitic capacitance, it actually peaks and then the Q starts to fall back down. Okay? But we need a parameter to sort of figure out, you know, at what point we might sort of be getting in trouble. And we use something called skin depth, and we use the Greek letter delta to indicate that. And this is defined as the depth at which the current falls to about 1 over E, which works out to be roughly 37% of the current at the surface. All right, so this is the same kind of thing that you would see, you know, when you look at like an RC circuit where, you know, the cap is discharging. You get that same kind of exponential decay kind of thing. But here it's across the face of the conductor. All right, we can calculate skin depth using this little equation. It's the square root of the quantity 2 times rho, which is the resistivity, divided by the radiant frequency times the permeability of the material. So we find that it's not just the frequency that defines skin depth, it's also the material itself. Right? It will be different for copper as versus aluminum or, you know, some other metal that we're going to use for the conductor. All right. Ideally, though, what we would like is the skin depth to actually be bigger than what the diameter of the wire is, right? And that in that case, it becomes inconsequential. It's when you start looking at a skin depth that is small relative to the diameter of the wire that you end up with some serious problems. All right, so here's a nice visual for you. So we're looking at our wire face on, okay? For DC, this would all be red, right? So the red color that I'm using here would represent the intensity of the current. So out here, this is a high current. This is sort of a middle of the road current. This is basically no current down here where it's white, right? So for DC, this whole thing would be solid red. As we go up in frequency, at a modest low frequency, we would start to see a little bit of a pale red, pink here, and that would just keep growing and growing and growing and growing and growing until we get to something that, we see right now, which is kind of an extreme case where, here we're seeing the skin depth is a small fraction of the diameter of the wire. All right. So, you look at this and you go, this kind of looks like a donut, it kind of looks like a tube. And in fact, you could use a tube instead of a normal conductor, a solid conductor, and get pretty much the same result as far as the resistance of this wire. In fact, it would actually be more efficient because you'd be using less copper, right? If this copper in here is not really holding any current, why even have it there? It doesn't do you any good, okay? All right, so this is a nice visual. When you remember your resistance equation, right? Rho is the resistivity of the material. So forgetting about that for just a second, if I'm just looking at copper, whatever the material is, that's a consistent thing. So it's length of the wire divided by the cross-sectional area. So it's pretty obvious with this representation, frequency goes up, right? There's omega. As frequency goes up, this thing is getting thinner and thinner and thinner and thinner, and our donut is getting thinner and thinner and thinner and thinner, until finally we just have this very thin outer skin that's conducting. All right? So the dotted line represents the skin depth, which is, like I said before, 37% of the surface current, the maximum current. All right, so this is a pretty extreme case. This is very inefficient. So, what can we do to get around this? Well, there are some things to consider, right? I mean, as I said, you could use like a tubular, hollow, like a pipe kind of conductor. It also kind of tells you a little bit about maybe making a high current conductor too big, right? I mean, even at a low frequency, like 60 hertz, skin depth is somewhere around, I think, about 0.3 of an inch. It's like a, centimeter sized. Okay, it's not that much. So it doesn't make a lot of sense if you have a demand for a high current to have, a conductor that's like, 20 centimeters across, like 6 inches across, something like that, because even at 60 hertz, the skin depth is going to have an effect. Okay, not at DC, but even at 60 hertz, which we tend to think of as a pretty low frequency, right? That can be a problem. What do we do, right? Because, I mean, that's ultimately that resistance is going to limit what we can do as far as the current capacity of that conductor. Well, it would seem that what you would like to do, because you don't really have any control over the skin depth itself, what you would like to do is use a smaller wire, which is kind of counterintuitive. All right. I mean, if the dotted line was like here, or if the dotted line was so far in other words, delta was so small that it didn't even appear in here, like the center never even got down to 37%, maybe only went down to 50% or 80% or whatever, that would be a much nicer situation. Of course, the thing to remember is if you have just a smaller gauge wire, the resistance is going to go up. And of course, the current carrying capacity will also go down. So what do we do? Well, how about if we use multiples? This is what Litz wire is all about. So Litz wire, basically this comes from a German word, which essentially means like braided. What we're going to do is, instead of using one big conductor, we're going to divide this up into a bunch of little conductors. So I've drawn 5 of them over here. And the overall diameter of this is pretty close to what this would be. In other words, it would take the same outer sheath, right? This would fit within here. Clearly, it uses less copper because there's a lot of void space in here. But the important thing that we would notice is there's a lot more surface area here. Now, it's very, very important to note this is insulated wire. I am not using 5 conductors like I would in a stranded wire. This would be like magnet wire that has like an enameled surface on it. These are individually insulated, right, from each other. So that's what the black represents, is that insulation. So each one of these conductors would have a skin depth. So, maybe the skin depth is like this. Well, you're going to get a pretty good result here. You're going to have a little void here, whereas on the single wire back here, that same skin depth gives you this huge void in the center. All right? So you have a lot more surface area here than you have over here, and the end result is, at high frequencies, you're going to get lower resistance. That's exactly what we're looking for. So this is what's called type 1 Litz wire, right? And this, I can't really show it here in this little 2D illustration, but this would be twisted. So you imagine these 5 conductors twisted, right, as it goes along, sort of barreling along like so, all right? What's the next step? Well, the next step would be to make a bundle of the bundles, right? So this is a bundle, in this case 5 wires. So why don't we use each one of these bundles as its own little sort of mini bundle? In other words, each one of these things would be its own little bundle. That's what's called type 2 Litz wire, right? So here's the 5 originals that I had, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And each one of those is its own little bundle of Litz wire. All right, so this is what a type 2 is. So it's a bundle of a bundle. And then, yes, there is a type 3, which is a bundle of a bundle of a bundle. All right, so take this whole thing here and say, all right, that's going to be one bundle, and then I'll just repeat this process. Okay, that'll be one bundle, and then I'll make, in this case, 4 more copies. And again, this is twisted, this is twisted, this is twisted, this is twisted, this is twisted. Now, these 5 are all twisted together. And then a type 3, this whole thing, along with its 4 pals, they would all be twisted together, right? So this is like twisted on top of twisted on top of twisted. Now, there are other types of Litz wire. There is a type 4, a type 5, a type 6, and so on. And it's not, they just don't keep increasing this. At some point, you kind of run out of it's like diminishing returns. And Litz wires usually go up to maybe, a few megahertz, okay? But these higher types, like you look at what's type 8 Litz wire? Well, these also come in a rectangular cross-section. In other words, so it's like a ribbon wire. And you'll have, these little clusters, these little bundles, but the whole thing will be formed into a rectangle rather than, a circle like I have over here. All right, so there's a couple different ways of doing that. There's also a coaxial form of Litz wire, like a regular coax cable, but the shield and the center conductor, standard you'd have a single center conductor and then, the outer shield. All of that is made of bundles of Litz wire, all right? So, what's the obvious upside is you have all of this extra surface area, so the resistance stays at a relatively low value as we go up through frequency instead of it climbing due to skin effect. That's the big upside of it. What's the downside of doing this? Well, clearly it's a much more complicated construction. So it is going to be more expensive, right? There's no question about that. So you're not going to just use this willy-nilly. You're going to use this in very specific applications. A higher frequency, high power kind of application. All right. You might use this in specialized inductors, again, to keep that R coil constant so you can maximize Q. Right. The other way of looking at that is by keeping the resistance small, you minimize our I squared R losses, right? Power losses in the wire. So that's a good thing. Another positive that you get out of here is the fact that because the gauge on these wires is going to be pretty small. I mean, it might be like a 40 gauge wire or something like that, all depending on what your application is. But the bend radius is going to be rather small. So this stuff can end up being fairly flexible. I mean, it looks really complicated, and you might not think that it would be particularly flexible, but it can be, right? You know, the bend radius is partly a function of what this diameter is. So small diameter, you get a small bend radius. So that winds up being a flexible cable, all right? So that's basically what Litz wire is. The whole point is, let's keep the resistance small all the way up to higher frequencies, where skin effect would become a serious, serious problem. Now you start figuring out skin depth at high frequencies, 100 kilohertz, 500 kilohertz, a couple megahertz, and it's really, really small, tiny, tiny fraction of an inch. You know, tiny fraction, or less than a millimeter. So, you think about using a typically, large gauge wire, and you're finding out that, 95% of my current is just right here, right below the surface, right? The center is like hardly even being used. Very inefficient. So the cost is actually works out to your benefit. It is more expensive, but it's way, way more effective. So that's the whole point of using Litz wire. Cool, huh? So just to recap, skin effect is this idea where the current sort of hugs the surface at higher and higher frequencies. The higher the frequency is, the shallower and shallower the current sort of dives into the center, till finally we get this point where it's like a donut and there's really no current in the center. So the way we mitigate that is to just increase the surface area. So at level 1, type 1, we just use this little cluster, this little bundle. We braid this together, right? Twist it. And then we can go beyond that by taking this and having this be a subset, a bundle of a bundle, right? Which is our type 2. And then we can have a bundle of a bundle of a bundle, which is the type 3. And then, as I said, other more complicated versions where, we might have certain kinds of materials in between here. Like I said, the flat ribbon style that would be braided together, coaxial style, what have you. Okay? So, things are not maybe as straightforward as we might first seem. Maybe you weren't aware of skin effect, but it is real, it is out there, and we do have ways of mitigating it. Great. I hope you enjoyed this. Till next time, this is Professor Fiore saying, take care, have a good one.